Welcome back. Today marks 1 year since Hamas's horrific attack on Israel last October 7th, killing roughly 1,200 people, taking some 250 others hostage to Gaza. Overnight, an Israeli airstrike hit a Hezbollah weapons facility in Lebanon after Hezbollah fired rockets from Lebanon into northern Israel. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant telling Fox News chief correspondent Trey Yingst that everything is on the table as Israel weighs its options to respond to Iran's unprecedented attack last week. Meanwhile, former President Trump is slamming President Biden's comments last week, opposing Israel attacking Iran's nuclear sites. Watch.
I think he's got that one wrong. Isn't that what you're supposed to hit? The answer should have been hit the nuclear first and worry about the rest later.
Joining me now is Texas Congressman Pat Fallon, a member of the House Armed Services and Oversight Committees. He's also an Air Force veteran himself. Congressman, good to see you. Where are you on this? Should Israel go and try to hit the nuclear sites?
Well, I definitely don't think the President of the United States, Maria, should be limiting and advising Israel publicly what they can and can't do. I mean, they're a sovereign nation. They know best, and they have way better intelligence than we have currently. But this is what happens when you let somebody like Joe Biden, when he's elected to office, and I mean, lives are at stake, and there are 1,200 Israelis that have been killed by Hamas, and really it was Iran because the sanctions, when we had full pressure under President Trump, Iran made about $8 billion a year selling oil internationally. That rose to $43 billion under Joe Biden because he didn't enforce the sanctions. So you can foster a lot of mayhem and murder and mischief on that extra $35 billion, which the Iranians have done.
Well, I mean, that's right. And, the White House keeps saying, oh, no, the sanctions haven't been in place. We have not touched the sanctions. But even though they kept the sanctions in place, they weren't enforced. And that is what the former Crown Prince of Iran told me yesterday. Here's Reza Pahlavi with me yesterday. Here. Basically saying that how else did they generate $100 billion? Here he is. Watch.
Well, okay.
The sanctions have been on Iran, but were they actually enforced?
They were not, because the $100+ billion that the regime had access to a couple of years ago, closing into what happened and ultimately led to empowering it to support its proxies, including Hezbollah and Hamas, of course, didn't come from nowhere. If those oil sanctions were imposed, that would be $100 billion less for the regime to spend. Not to mention, of course, the ransom money for hostages that was also paid to the regime, about $6.5 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And so all of this money is not going to, help Iranian workers who are being not paid their salaries for a long time. Instead, it goes to support the proxies.
So, Congressman, does this also go back to bad and failed policy from Biden and Harris?
No, there's no doubt. I mean, according to Israeli sources, Maria, the Iranian support for Hamas has nearly quadrupled in this time frame. And look at what they did exactly a year ago. I mean, that's unbelievable. And you don't coddle theocratic fundamentalist regimes. What you do is you oppose them with everything you have. That's what President Trump's approach was. It was the correct approach, and we need to continue that. I think the Biden and Harris's two-state solution, as far as the Middle East goes, is win in Pennsylvania and Michigan.
Okay, so you think it's political as well, something Cheryl Casoni just said as well. But look, Congressman, you are an elected official. How is it possible that Kamala Harris can just spend money like a drunken sailor? I mean, she is facing criticism this morning from angry Americans because she pledged $157 million to Lebanon at the same time that residents of North Carolina are struggling to recover from Hurricane Helene, and another hurricane is on the way. Here's what Kamala Harris posted on X. I am concerned about the well-being of civilians suffering in Lebanon. The United States will provide $157 million in additional assistance to the people of Lebanon for essential needs such as food, shelter, water, protection, and sanitation. Meanwhile, FEMA is running out of money, according to Alejandro Mayorkas. And reportedly, they've abandoned a devastated North Carolina town because they allegedly were not allowed to drive around a sign that said road closed. One resident said that nobody's been bringing in supplies except civilians. Tulsi Gabbard has been on the ground. She spoke to me yesterday. She's been on the ground in North Carolina as well as Georgia. Watch this.
The sad thing is, Maria, you know, I look back to what happened in Maui during the wake of the tragic historic fires there and the many layers of failures that came from FEMA. And I'm seeing the exact same thing play out here today. While Vice President Harris and Joe Biden claim to be doing all they can and providing all the resources possible, FEMA is out on the ground, they say. But when you go out into these rural communities, they have yet to see anyone with a FEMA jacket on knocking on their door saying, how can we help you?
So, Congressman, what's the story here? I mean, FEMA is out of money. I mean, House Republicans, yourself included, want answers from DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas because apparently FEMA has redirected billions of dollars in aid from the emergency fund to illegal migrants. Now, FEMA and the White House is denying this, but White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre back in 2022 laid it all out. Watch this.
FEMA regional administrators have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants. We'll continue to do what we can as a federal government to support these cities as we rebuild our asylum processing system after it was gutted by the Trump administration.
Congressman, give me a break. Okay, they can't say they did not redirect the FEMA emergency money to illegals. She just told us what they were doing. But my question is on you. You're an elected official. How are they getting away with this? Aren't there three branches of government here?
Maria, there's a lot to unpack. It doesn't make you moral to try and help your neighbor when your own house is on fire. So I was one of those furious people when I read her tweet about helping, sending hundreds of millions of dollars to Lebanon. I honestly, first of all, they think money fell from the sky. I thought when I read it, she must have been talking about some town, Lebanon in Georgia or in North Carolina. Now, she was talking about Lebanon in Asia Minor. I couldn't believe that. I mean, I'm absolutely furious. FEMA's not out of money. We put in the continuing resolution $20 billion, so apparently they don't do their homework and they don't do their jobs and they don't read bills. But we need to put our American people first. The response has been an epic disaster. And if this was a Republican administration, it would be leading all news programs. It would be in all newspapers above the fold. But because it's Biden-Harris, they get a pass. And again, she's more concerned about Michigan than she is about the devastation in Georgia, in the Carolinas, Virginia, Tennessee, and Florida.
I understand, but is anybody overseeing how the money in FEMA is being spent? I mean, KJP laid it out in 2022 that they were going to use emergency money from FEMA for the illegal migrants. So can they just do that without any oversight?
Well, of course, they've done, from what I've seen, hundreds of millions of dollars have been redirected over the last few years to foreign nationals before Americans. It's FEMA. It's emergency money for Americans. They never should have done it. Unfortunately, we're out of session right now, but when we get back, we're going to have to do our job in oversight and to give the American people hard answers on this. But yeah, that's the executive branch of government. They do have leeway in doing so.
What a shame. And these people are losing everything, homes, everything, death and destruction in the Southeast. Congressman, thank you. We'll be watching your work. Pat Fallon joining us today.